Hello there. Have you ever noticed that there seems to be this running commentary in your head sometimes telling you what you should have done, what you shouldn't have done, telling you that maybe you're failing at this, maybe other people won't like you, maybe you're not doing a good job at whatever you're doing, and so on and so forth? Well, this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. We all have this inner voice, but it does tend to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more critical, and even abusive in people who suffer from chronic pain or symptoms. And that's because we are often too hard on ourselves, okay? And sometimes we are so hard on ourselves and we create so much pressure that this can create real physiological changes in the body, which leads to chronic pain or symptoms. So I'd just like you to think back to what might have led to this critical inner voice. What might have led you to becoming maybe too perfectionistic in your life, too people-pleasing, too worried about what other people think, okay? That you have these constant ruminations, even when you're supposed to be relaxing, even when you think that you're not stressed and you're going through a good time in life, you still carry around these thoughts. These thoughts still pop up in your life, and these create some sort of anxiety, maybe low-level anxiety. Maybe when you get triggered and you're really facing a situation that affects how you feel about yourself, okay? Maybe you've been worried what people think about you, and you really encounter a situation when you really notice that someone is upset at you. So that would be a trigger for you because you're already worried what others will think about you, but now you know for sure that someone is a little bit upset at you. So that would be a huge trigger for you, and that can lead, for example, to a flare-up in your symptoms. So it's important to kind of ask yourself, where is this coming from, and how hard are you being on yourself today? For most people, it comes from their childhood. They either had a really, really critical parent or relative, okay? Or maybe they also had a neglectful parent or relative who was never happy or never gave them enough attention. So these people would grow up thinking that, in order to get someone's attention or approval, they really, really need to be good. They really need to make sure that they work really hard, or that they don't make other people upset, or that they need to be perfect in their work. So these traits we are not really born with, but they develop as a protection mechanism so that we can protect ourselves from feeling rejected or disapproved of or judged harshly. The thing is that we carry these traits with us later on in life, and we actually adopt our parents or our bullies' voices in our heads. So we become our own worst critics, okay? So the first thing to do is to kind of, once you make this connection between where your traits might be coming from, where does your critical voice, let's call it your critical voice. Once you make this connection of where it might be coming from, what situation in your life, I would encourage you to stop just blaming that situation for the way you are today, and to look at how you have now become your own worst critic. Maybe today it's not your mother who's criticizing you, okay? Maybe today it's your own self. You have adopted her own voice. Maybe you've even made it 10 times worse. Because the more we indulge in the same kind of thinking patterns, the more likely we are to have the same kind of thoughts. And these thoughts will then lead to the same kind of emotions. And usually when we are highly critical of ourselves, the emotions that we generate are emotions of fear and helplessness and stuckness, okay? And that emotion of shame or guilt, that fear of failure, of us never going to be good enough at something. So I'd just like you to notice how this tends to play out in you today. Because some people look at their past and they try to revisit their past and to heal their traumas without really realizing that their trauma is affecting them because of the way it plays out today. It's not their abuser really now, it's not their relative or whatever that is causing these reactions in them today. It might be their own inner voice, their own perception of the world. And this is why you have to be super aware of your thoughts, of what you are telling yourself, what kind of negativity you're carrying around, okay? And this is not to say that you should be living in denial of anything negative that's happening, okay? It's just that you should be really, really aware when you're beating yourself up, basically. And I think the best form of empowerment is to realize that it's not about blaming what happened, but about taking responsibility for the way that we are reacting today, while still being kind to ourselves. Of course, we can't help being the way we are sometimes, okay? And yeah, we have to be soft on ourselves, and you can't just stop these thoughts. You can't just stop this critical voice all of a sudden. It just doesn't happen that way. And it doesn't mean that you will never be triggered again. If you encounter another stressful situation that threatens your values or your needs, you will be triggered again. You might feel symptoms in your body again, but at least you're aware of what happened. You're aware of your thinking process. And maybe next time you'll be able to react just a little bit differently. You'll be a little bit softer on yourself, okay? You will realize when you've started to think in that critical voice and say like, hey, come on, stop. You know, like if I had a friend who was so critical towards me, would I still keep that friend? Yes or no? So it's important to realize that sometimes we are our own worst friends as well. So just be aware of your inner critical or negative voice and see where that leads you, okay? Write it down if necessary. I like to do this a lot. Like I like to listen to my running commentary and just write it down just to get aware of that, because sometimes we're kind of aware of our thoughts but not really aware of what we're saying to ourselves. So when you just write it down, you just realize, oh wow, I'm constantly telling myself that I'm worthless, or I'm constantly telling myself that things won't work out. I'm constantly demotivating myself. No wonder I'm feeling this way. Okay, so this is the awareness work at play, which will help your overall well-being and help change these habits, these thinking patterns a little bit. Okay, I think I've given you enough to think about and reflect on for today, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.